Good day, everyone. Welcome to our podcast. Our podcast is about communication. I would like to introduce my colleagues, Ma'am Luzil Moni and Angelina Magallanes. Can you please introduce yourself, Ma'am Luzil?
Hello, good day everyone. My name is Lucille Moni. I am BSED first year student.
Hello everyone. My name is Angelina Magallanes and a former BSED student.
Good day, everyone. My name is Ralph Esteva, and I'm from BSED English. So I would like to start our podcast here by asking Ma'am Luzil, what do you know about communication, or what are your opinions in communication? Do you think it's important, or do you think it's irrelevant to our daily lives?
For me, communication, we are doing it every day. Every single, every minute of the day, we are doing communication. We talk to each other, not just oral communication, we also do those nonverbal communications. So it is very important. It is very relevant in our daily life because in that way we express ourselves. We say what are important things we have to say to everyone or to anyone, and we also do that in our student life for our business. Anyone is doing communication, and it is very important that we convey our messages, we communicate with each other effectively and in good way.
Yes, yes. Ma'am Angelina, how would you describe a good and effective communication? Excuse me.
Uh, a good and effective communication is all about understanding instructions or a issue around you. We can as well be a good and effective speaker in communication, and we are able to listen to others and can successfully relay our ideas and opinion correctly that everyone can understand.
Ma'am Luzil, can you describe what is a good and effective communication?
A good and effective communication is the first or the main objective is this to relay the message and receive the message correctly and effectively. So when you deliver the message and the receiver receives it just the way you want it, just the way you mean it to him, then it's an effective and a good communication.
Mm. Ma'am Angelina, can you describe what is a bad type of communication?
The bad type,
Yes, something that isn't a good way to communicate.
uh, when we communicate, we should always use simple words. So the bad communication is all about using jargons, any
Slang
kind
language.
of slang language.
Yes,
That's
many
it.
people sometimes doesn't understand how to use slang language. That's why there's miscommunication. Yes, I understand.
And also, sir, and also with
Yes,
a good pronunciation,
yes, that's
because
true.
sometimes those people that don't have a good pronunciation, you cannot understand. For example, we say bread, breed, breed,
Yes,
breed.
yes.
So when you pronounce it differently, the
They could.
message the message is wrong.
Yes, there
You
could be a
cannot understand.
misunderstanding. Yes.
Yes.
Ma'am Luzil, can you describe communication? For you, what is communication?
For me, communication is sending message, receiving the message. So it's not just talking, it's not just an oral communication. We also
Yes.
have non-verbal communication through sign language, body language. That is communication. We are delivering a message. You are delivering, I
Yes.
have to add this. You are
Yes.
delivering a message, and then the receiver receives the message, and then the receiver gives a feedback. So the message returns goes back to the
It's a
sender.
complete communication, yes,
Yes,
because communication can't only be between one party. It can also be transferred between one person to another person, and that other person can give his own or her own feedback to the other person. Yes, that's
yes.
true, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am Angelina, what is the most common type of communication? What kind of communication do you use on your everyday life?
Kind like a language.
Yeah, no, no, kind of talking or chatting. What kind of communication do you use to communicate with other people on your daily life? Do you use
Um,
speaking? Are you prone to speaking to other people or just typing or chatting with other people?
okay. In my daily life, I use talking and chatting.
Yes,
Uh, Everyone does, right?
yes, yes, of course.
Uh, in the morning, you say good morning to all the your relatives, and that's speaking. And when you're
You
in a
also
class,
say good morning to your. You also text good morning to your someone.
Yes, yes, of course.
someone, right? And when in a class, when you're uh, opening an opinion, you should chat, right? Especially on a teacher. You cannot
Um,
video a
yes,
teacher directly.
yes. What dialect or what language do you usually use when communicating, Ma'am Angelina? S- Sorry.
I use uh, both Bisaya and Tagalog, and also English because we have a kiddos here that always speak in English, and he cannot he cannot understand and speak Bisaya and Tagalog. That's
Yes,
why.
yes.
Mix.
How about you, Ma'am Lucille? What is the most common dialect or language do you use in everyday life in communicating?
For me, because now I am here in Manila, so I am speaking. I used to speak Tagalog, especially with my kids because they grew up here, and then with my neighbors. But when I am chatting in our GCs, in our subjects, I usually chat in Ilonggo so that I cannot forget also my Ilonggo words, my terms.
Yes, yes. Um, Here there are very there are a lot of barriers in communication. To be specific, there are six, and we've all studied these six barriers of communication. Ma'am Lucille, what do you think about the physical barrier? What do you think it is? Can you explain it to me?
The first thing in my mind is when you say physical barrier is the distance.
Yes,
It's the, it's the distance of the sender of the message and the receiver of the message. For example, that I'm here in Manila, sometimes I have to send messages to my classmates there in Coronadal, and then they
yes,
don't have a good internet connection. So the
yes,
message I send them, they might read it the next day.
yes.
So
It might be
there's
delayed.
already a barrier. Yes,
Yes, yes. That's a
that's right.
barrier of communication. Yes, that's true. Mom Angelina, what do you think about the cultural barrier? What do you think it is?
Cultural barriers. It is about people with different cultures. When we speak, we should consider our audience. So
Yes,
if we're speaking just with our opinion and not considering the other audience, that it might be Muslims, might be Fugao, and they cannot understand you, or if you talk, they misunderstand you.
yes,
So that's cultural barriers. We should uh, communicate with that mm, with that what
yeah, 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 I get
The
it, I get it.
person.
I get it. Wait. Um, Mom Lucille, what do you think is perceptual barrier? What do you think it is?
When we say perceptual barrier, it is the result of the internal biases. When
How
we
come?
say, sometimes we talk to someone, we send a message, for example, the person is frowning at you, but you are asking him, "Are you happy that I am here?"
Yes.
And then he will answer, "Yes, I'm glad you came.
But he's
I'm glad you
frowning.
came," but he's frowning.
Yes,
You
I
cannot see
understand.
it in his face. So you have the perception that, oh my, he said he's happy, but actually he's not.
Yes, you
So
can tell it by his
yes,
facial
this
expression.
facial.
Yes, yes, that's true. Ma'am Angelina, do you think what do you think about language barrier? Can you explain it?
Okay. Language barrier means when someone who doesn't speak the same language as us, so we should adjust. So there's a barrier
Yes,
when we communicate. When we communicate, we use our language. But what if our audience is with the different languages from different countries? So there's a language barriers in that situation.
yes,
That's
yes.
the
How about you, Ma'am Luzil? How about the interpersonal barrier? Can you expand on that? What do you think it is?
For me, I'd say that interpersonal barrier, it is the obstacles within the self. So within the self of the sender, or maybe of the receiver of the message. So for example of this is lack of open-mindedness. So sometimes, especially those people who are IPs, those indigenous people, the one you explain things or you want them to change into something that is new to their society, they're not open-minded. They might listen, but they won't accept it. They won't accept the
Yes,
thought. They won't accept what you're talking about. And then we have this sometimes that they will disagree to what you are talking. Then sometimes you argue because they
yes.
will not really accept that what is it.
And it's
Then
not usually just the indigenous people. You can also see it in the cities, in the
yes,
politicians. Many
yes, yes,
politicians does not accept changes. They don't accept the opinions of others. Many politicians are
yes,
like that. Not only those, but also some teachers, some construction workers, almost everyone, not just indigenous people, but also people from everyday life. They have interpersonal barriers, which are interconnectedly have a struggle between their minds, between them and other people. Yes, everyone
So I
has.
want to correct
Yes,
this that I'm not referring to all of the indigenous
yes, yes.
people.
Of course,
Maybe
of
sometimes
course.
they will get
Yes,
angry at me.
yes,
Let's say
yes.
that some of them,
yes,
especially those people that are very far from the
yes.
city, very far from the
Yeah,
town,
we
that
understand.
they are not exposed to the environmental.
Yes, yes. Of course, of course. Um, Mom Angelina, how about gender barriers? Can you explain it?
Yeah, gender barriers. When it comes with gender barriers, uh, it is about it is about genders, right? Girls and boys. Example, when we girls only talks when they are in a bonding. Sometimes we talk about crushes,
Yes,
men,
yes.
man, and we have that code like uh, he, she, or
Him,
anything that
her. Yeah,
him.
yeah.
Yeah. Then in also naman when they gathered around, they also talk about girls.
Yes.
We know that, and that's uh the
The gender
differences about
barriers.
no the
The
differences
difference
about the
between men and women.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when we talk about gender barriers, it is when that two groups, the girl and the boy, the man and the woman, join together.
They don't
They limit
understand each
the
other. They're
they
communicating.
limit
The communication, I
communication.
mean. Yes.
because it can be they can misunderstood what you're talking about. So it's about
Yes.
the barriers.
Yes. That's true. That's true. Um, Mom Lucille, in your daily life, what is the most common communication barrier that you encounter?
Most common is that uh, I have this, I go to what's this, interpersonal barriers.
How come?
Interpersonal, really, because sometimes, not just sometimes, most or often times, that when you talk, when you talk to someone who will disagree, no, no, it's not that. Just like that. Even just in a class, we tend to discuss things that because sometimes we argue with some with the lessons that it's not like that. It's because I don't understand that, and then because you won't argue with the topic if if you agree with that.
Yes.
But then within yourself, you cannot accept that. That's why you have to reason out. You reason out that this must be like that, must be like that.
This
How about
isn't
you, Mom
right. Like
Angelina? What is the most common communication barrier that you encounter every day?
for me, it is emotional barriers.
How come?
Often, most of the time here in our house, a lot of people is actually hyper. Um, high. Every time they nag about this thing, that thing, and we cannot communicate correctly, and we misunderstood each other. That's why every time it's emotional barriers for me.
Yes. For me personally, the most common communication barrier I encounter is usually physical barrier, because usually I can't communicate with other people directly because due to the lack of internet connection here in my area. For example, I would like to talk to the teacher. I couldn't chat or video call her immediately or him due to the internet connection. And also to my classmates, I can send our projects or talk to our classmates on my problems on my internet connection because there's no connection here. So it's hard for me to communicate to other people due to that. Um, Due to the physical barrier that is in between me and towards the person that I want to receive our message. Yes, for me, usually, physical barrier is the most common barrier that I encounter. So, since we've been talking for almost 15 minutes or more than that, Ma'am Lucille, what are your closing remarks and what would you like to say to the people that are listening to our podcast right now?
I would just like to say that in communication, it is very important to, you have to consider those barriers that we have tackled about. You have
Yes,
to consider it. And then, if you think that the communication isn't effective, do other ways. Do other ways. So for you to send your message, for you to receive the message, and just do other ways, find ways so that you can communicate well. And then if something is not good, you just accept it, open-hearted, just accept it, and then try to do things again in a better way. So
yes.
that's just it.
How about you, Ma'am Angelina? What are your closing remarks, or what would you like to say to the people that are listening to our podcast?
To the people that are listening to our podcast today, um, those barriers is hard to uh, sometimes we cannot control
Overcome.
it,
Yes.
overcome it. So find a way, and don't just stand in that way. Like example in language. he speak English and you cannot speak in English. So you find a way. You can use
Compromise.
smartphones, yeah, and also read more, comprehend more, so that you can understand and communicate effectively. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you for that, Ma'am Angelina, Ma'am Lucille. And I would like to say that to have a great conversation or to have a great communication exchange of emotions between two persons, one must be able to listen. You must be able
Yes.
to ready yourself to prepare to um, receive what is the message and give and be able to give a good feedback towards the person that has given you a message. And for those people who are listening right now, I would like to thank you for listening to our podcast, and I would like to greet you good day. Good day to you all. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.